In the quiet town of Scottsville, Kentucky, Friday night lights meant baseball, families, and trust. Children played near the stands, parents cheered from the bleachers, and danger felt far away. But one October evening, that illusion was shattered. A little girl vanished in the middle of a packed stadium. What began as a search turned into a chilling homicide investigation, one that pointed to someone shockingly close to home. As the truth unfolded, friends, neighbors, and even family were forced to question everything they thought they knew. This is the story of innocence stolen, a community shaken, and justice fought for. Subscribe for more true crime documentaries. Gabby Duane was born on December 26, 2007, in the quiet farming community of Scottsville, Kentucky. With a population just above 4,000, Scottsville was the kind of place where most families knew one another, or at least recognized a familiar face at the local store. Life here was simple and predictable, marked by the rhythms of farming and the traditions of small-town living. Entertainment options were limited, and for the people of Scottsville, school sports were more than just games. They were community gatherings. Football, in particular, held a special place. The school stadium, along with its baseball and tennis fields, served as a hub where families and friends came together. It was a tradition for parents to fill the stands, cheer for their children, and share in the collective pride of their town. Gabby's family was no exception. She was the only daughter among 3 children. Her older brother played on the football team, and she joined a cheerleading squad, embracing the same traditions that defined her community. Her parents, deeply rooted in Scottsville, spent countless evenings at the school field, watching their children participate and celebrating each moment. Gabby was described as energetic, social, and eager to be part of the excitement. She thrived in the environment of familiarity and trust that Scottsville offered. Yet it was this very setting, the closeness of a town bound by shared traditions, that made what happened next so devastating, leaving an entire community shaken to its core. On November 14, 2015, Scottsville gathered for the biggest football game of the year. The town's school team was set to face a rival from another county, and the event drew large crowds from both communities. For many residents, this was the highlight of the season, a night when the stadium came alive with cheers, lights, and local pride. Gabby's parents initially planned to leave her at home with her younger brother, but after persistent pleading, she convinced them to bring her along. Once they arrived, Gabby immediately spotted her friends and asked to join them. Her mother agreed, reminding her to stay within the school grounds. From there, Gabby spent the evening darting between her mother in the bleachers, her father in the announcer's booth, and her friends scattered around the field. The last time her family saw her, she had asked her father for money to buy snacks at the concession stand before running off again. Not long after, her friends rushed to her mother, anxious and uneasy. They explained that they had been playing hide and seek, hiding together in the restroom while Gabby was supposed to find them. But she never appeared. When the girls left their hiding spot to look for her, she was nowhere to be found. Her mother and father immediately began searching, enlisting help from friends and other parents. Announcements were made over the loudspeakers, and stadium workers lit the fields and wooded area beyond. Yet 20 minutes passed without any trace of Gabby, forcing her parents to make a terrifying decision. They called the police. When Gabby's parents called the police, officers arrived quickly, aware of the seriousness of the situation. In a town where missing child cases were virtually unheard of, the urgency was immediate. Investigators feared that Gabby had been abducted, and with the stadium full of people, the potential perpetrator might still be among them. To prevent anyone from leaving unnoticed, authorities made a critical decision.
They halted the football game, quietly locked down the stadium, and stationed officers at every exit. Spectators were not informed of the true reason, as officials feared panic would interfere with the search. Instead, investigators spread out across the grounds, combing every corner of the field, concession areas, and restrooms. The search then expanded into the woods near the baseball field. There, state police made a devastating discovery. In a shallow creek, they found Gabby's body. Visible marks on her neck suggested strangulation, and parts of her clothing were missing, raising immediate suspicion of sexual assault. Back at the stadium, Gabby's mother saw an ambulance near the woods and ran toward it, desperate for answers. Officers stopped her before she could reach the scene, sparing her the horror of what had been uncovered. In that moment, the investigation shifted from a search for a missing child to a homicide case. The crowd was moved into the school gymnasium. Detectives believed the killer could be among them and began interviews at once. Gabby's friends offered a crucial detail. One had noticed a man in a denim jacket outside the restroom. A ticket seller confirmed seeing the same individual, describing him as intoxicated. That sighting became the first real lead.
As interviews continued inside the school gymnasium, more accounts began pointing investigators in the same direction. Several attendees reported noticing a man lingering near the women's restroom on the night of the game. His name was Timothy Madden. Witnesses recalled his distracted demeanor, noting how he seemed uninterested in the football match, even though his own son was on the field. What stood out most was his clothing, a denim jacket, the same distinctive detail mentioned earlier by Gabby's friends. Madden was no stranger to the community. A longtime resident, he was familiar to the sheriff and known for having little more than a history of traffic violations. Because of that reputation, many locals initially dismissed the idea that he could be involved. Even the sheriff found it hard to imagine. Still, detectives felt compelled to follow the lead and visited Madden late that same night. During questioning, Madden admitted having spoken briefly with Gabby. He claimed she asked him where her friends had gone during hide-and-seek, and that he simply pointed her in their direction. But detectives noticed troubling inconsistencies in his statements. His answers shifted quickly, raising red flags. When pressed about whether his DNA might be found on Gabby, he offered no explanation, responding calmly without surprise. Madden consented to provide a DNA sample and turned over the clothes he wore that evening. Investigators observed stains resembling blood on the fabric. Madden dismissed them as dirt, yet the clothing was secured for testing. Soon after, the forensic pathologist confirmed Gabby had died from manual strangulation and had been sexually assaulted. Suspicion now centered firmly on Timothy Madden.
While investigators waited for DNA results, they pursued every possible lead. One came in the form of an anonymous letter, naming another student as a suspect. The letter even provided the make of his car and a license plate number. Acting quickly, police tracked him down. His alibi was firm. He had been at work during the football game. With time cards and witnesses confirming his presence, the lead collapsed. Attention then shifted closer to Timothy Madden's own family. His 16-year-old son drew suspicion after giving inconsistent statements about his whereabouts that night. At first, he claimed he had attended the game, but later seemed uncertain. He also referenced the girls' hide-and-seek game, raising questions about how much he truly knew. Detectives found the detail troubling, especially when paired with knowledge that just weeks earlier he had threatened his father with a knife during a domestic dispute. Investigators hoped to secure DNA samples from the boy, but his mother refused consent. Without her cooperation, the effort stalled. This refusal deepened unease, adding to speculation already swirling through town. Rumors spread quickly across Scottsville, with some convinced that either Timothy Madden or one of his sons had been directly involved. For Gabby's parents, the suggestion was almost unthinkable. They had known the Madden family for years. Their children had grown up on the same fields, playing sports side by side. On the night of the game, the families had even sat near each other. Now, whispers and suspicion fractured that trust, leaving the community unsettled. As tensions mounted, trouble emerged from within Timothy Madden's family. His eldest son drew police attention when he sent threatening messages to local officers investigating the case. The threats were taken seriously, and he was quickly arrested. During processing, investigators discovered he had an active warrant in another town for assaulting a minor. While the revelation shocked many, detectives confirmed his alibi for the night of Gabby's disappearance. He could not have been involved in her murder. But the episode deepened the sense of unease surrounding the Madden household.
6 days later, grief weighed heavily on Scottsville. Gabby's funeral drew hundreds of mourners, filling the church with classmates, neighbors, and friends. The community gathered to honor her memory, but beneath the mourning was a desperate longing for answers. At nearly the same moment those answers arrived, the long-awaited DNA results confirmed investigators' worst fears. Forensic analysis revealed a complete match. Semen found on Gabby's body belonged to Timothy Madden. Blood stains discovered on the clothes he had surrendered tested positive as Gabby's. The evidence left no room for doubt. Detectives informed Gabby's parents privately during the funeral, ensuring they heard the devastating truth before news spread further. Soon after, officers moved quickly to Madden's home. There, they placed him under arrest. Madden protested, loudly declaring his innocence, but the science was undeniable. The arrest marked a pivotal moment. What began as uncertainty now hardened into fact. The crime that shattered Scottsville was tied directly to someone they all knew. As the case advanced toward trial, Timothy Madden's defense team firmly declared his innocence. His attorney questioned the reliability of the evidence, pointing to the condition of Madden's clothing. If Gabby's body had been discovered in a creek, the lawyer argued, how could Madden's jeans and jacket appear clean and dry? The defense pressed this point, suggesting inconsistencies undermined the state's narrative. Adding to this line of doubt, Madden's mother testified that her son returned home that evening acting entirely normal. He showed no signs of agitation, she insisted, offering the jury a portrait of a man whose behavior did not match the gravity of the accusations. The defense also highlighted gaps in the timeline and the absence of eyewitnesses who could definitively place Madden with Gabby at the moment she vanished. Still, prosecutors relied on what they considered the most powerful weapon in their case: DNA. The biological evidence tied Madden directly to the crime, and the state contended it was irrefutable. Confident in its strength, they announced their intention to pursue the death penalty.
Yet the path to trial proved slow and torturous. Years passed as bureaucratic delays and legal maneuvering postponed resolution. For Gabby's grieving family, the wait felt endless. By 2019, 4 long years after her murder, the prosecution offered a compromise: life imprisonment without the death penalty if Madden admitted guilt. Exhausted and desperate for closure, Gabby's parents accepted. Madden entered a guilty plea, though he never described the crime. During sentencing, emotions erupted. Gabby's father shouted at Madden, prompting heated exchanges with Madden's relatives. Order was restored, and the judge imposed a life sentence. Even after Timothy Madden's sentencing, troubling revelations continued to surface. A boy from another state came forward after recognizing Madden's face in a televised news report. He recalled an incident years earlier outside a shopping mall where a man, strongly resembling Madden, attempted to lure him and a friend into a car. The boy remained convinced it was the same man, yet without physical evidence or corroborating details, authorities could not pursue charges. The account, however, raised unsettling possibilities that Gabby might not have been Madden's first attempted victim. For Gabby's family, the guilty plea secured justice in the courtroom, but it did not bring the peace they desperately longed for. The plea deal meant Madden never explained what had taken place in the woods on that fateful night. The unanswered questions, how Gabby was lured away, whether she resisted, and what unfolded in her final moments, left a permanent void. Meanwhile, the community of Scottsville faced its own reckoning. A man many considered a familiar neighbor, a father of 5 who attended the same games and lived among them, had committed an unthinkable act. The betrayal of trust cut deeply, shaking the very fabric of the small town's sense of safety. The case ultimately underscored a grim truth. Even within close-knit communities, unseen dangers may exist. For Gabby's loved ones, the story ended with a conviction, but without closure. For Scottsville, the haunting possibility of undiscovered crimes continues to cast a long shadow.